So today I'm going to try to talk about just one topic, and that is rehearsal dinners. So me and Jake recently figured out what we're doing for ours, and if you don't know what a rehearsal dinner is, it's essentially a party to thank your nearest and dearest for helping you with wedding preparations. In my head, it's basically a mini wedding, except you invite less people, and you just don't have dancing or the ceremony. It's basically you practice a ceremony and you have a meal with everybody, and then you just kind of hang out and talk and maybe drink. One of my ideas is we might have people do toasts if they feel nervous about doing it in front of our 200 plus guests. They might want to do it in front of our smaller guest list. So for our guest list for the rehearsal dinner, we're planning to have my immediate family, Jake's immediate family, both our bridal parties, wedding parties, and plus their partners. We're going to invite the parents of the flower girls. We're not having rain bears, but you'd probably invite them and their parents too. And maybe a couple of people who are coming from out of state. We're not sure on that yet. But our rehearsal dinner guest list adds up to about a little over 60 people. So we are basically having a mini wedding for our rehearsal dinner. And this has given us a lot of trouble. We're trying to do, a budget rehearsal dinner, sort of, because we're already spending a bunch of money on the wedding. And of course, we want to thank everybody and give them a meal and, talk to them and, make them feel special the day before, because these are the people we want to spend a lot of time with. And if the next day happens and we have to see a bunch of other people, at least we'll get to see these people the night before. Our original idea was to do it at our house, which sounds like a great idea, right? That's the cheap option. We were going to just invite everybody over here. We're going to make some pulled pork sandwiches and have everybody hang out and maybe do a rehearsal outside. The big issue with that is space. So my brother actually did his rehearsal dinner at his future in-laws house. But they had a big house and a large property, so everybody's standing outside. There was plenty of space. Our house, if you get, we can fit maybe 20 people here for a LAN party, and even then it's very staggered, where some people in the dining room, some people in the living room, some people in the basement. We aren't really all in the same place at the same time ever. It's pretty impossible. And our backyard is pretty bumpy. There's a big hill, so it's sloped. So there's no good place for everybody to just stand around on even ground. So you couldn't really rehearse there either. And if it rained, buying a tent to cover people would probably be $1,000. I don't know. I didn't actually price it out because the ground's so uneven, it didn't really seem worth trying. And so everybody would be forced to be in here, and there's just not enough space. If 20 people at a LAN party is too many people, tripling that just sounds like a nightmare. So that was something we had to discredit. But if you're someone who has a smaller rehearsal dinner, a smaller guest list for it, I feel like that's a great option. You could feed people here. You could do a rehearsal in the backyard if you have a backyard, or just on a patch of space if you have a townhome where they have a kind of central area. Something like that. It seems like a great idea. I wish we could do it, but it just wasn't something that we were able to do. So our second option was another thing a friend of ours did. They had their rehearsal dinner at the hotel. So they didn't get married in a hotel, but they had, a hotel nearby where they were staying, and they stayed the night before and the night of their wedding. And we're doing a similar thing. So we asked our hotel if they had a catering option so we could do our rehearsal dinner there. I feel like it would be a little pricier just because it is a hotel, and they usually do have some events. Some smaller ones, I'm sure they have a smaller price if you have a smaller guest count, but they're used to doing events. They have the catering on site. I'm sure it's a bunch of stuff involved. But we actually didn't get an estimate for the hotel because we were too late, and that they already had a slot booked. So that is also not in the cards for us. But it does seem like a great option, especially our family and wedding party. A lot of them are staying at the hotel the night before, so it would have been very convenient for them. So if you think of that option, that's a great option. Our next idea was to do it at a brewery or a winery or a restaurant. Our friend did his at a brewery, and it was great. It was really nice. Each of us, they were able to give us each at least one drink that was on the house, basically, or maybe two. I can't remember, but they were really cool about it. We all hung out, and it was nice. The thing with that is they had a smaller crew, so we could all fit into a back room. But most breweries and wineries, one, they'll be a little more expensive because some don't really allow you to be there during peak hours. So if you want a Friday night, some places you'd have to buy out the whole place, which is a lot of money if you want to do it that way. Some places do have a back room, but you would need a smaller amount of people. Some will have a larger one, but that's something to look into. We had an issue where a lot of the back rooms just wouldn't fit 60 people. It just wasn't possible unless we rented out the whole place, which the price tag did not really allow us to do. We decided to look at restaurants and see if they'd be roughly the same price, and they were actually a bit more expensive, and a lot of them didn't have room for our guest count either. They said we'd be in with all the other guests who were, also eating their dinners there, and we weren't huge on that. The price point was higher than we expected. Like I said, it's basically a mini wedding, and these prices sort of reflected that. It was making me panic a little. Of course, feeding a bunch of people, you kind of expect to spend like 20 per person or something like that, but some of the prices were, way above that, like 50 a person, and it was a hard pill to swallow. So I'm freaking out, and at this point, I'm trying to just look up basically anything. Like, I remembered my sister-in-law had like a bridal shower at a bowling alley, and I was like, oh, that'd be fun. I really love bowling alley carpets. I have a weird thing for them. I lived in a house where our basement had a bowling alley carpet, and I thought it was so cool. But Jake didn't really like that space. I was trying to brainstorm other stuff, but I couldn't come up with anything else. I was just totally stumped. And then I called my mom, and she said, why don't you get a picnic shelter at a park, or a park shelter? And I was like, why didn't I think of this? I'm literally in a wedding Discord where people are getting married at park shelters, and I didn't think of this at all. I blame it on the fact that I'm not a DIYer at all. It is not in me to make anything unless it's words on a page. So like when we were looking at venues, we looked at the local community center, but we hadn't really we were like, oh, we probably won't. We just wanted to see because it was one of the cheaper options. And besides that one, we only looked at all inclusives because I just didn't want the stress of having to get a bunch of different vendors. And because since our guest count's pretty big, we figured we'd have to spend so much anyway just to get all the pieces put together. So we might as well just try to get it all in one spot. It was our thinking. I know Jake generally likes to do the easier option, and I wanted to do the option that would save my sanity. It just never crossed my mind to even try to find a place like this. But once we started looking, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great idea. Because you have the shelter, so if it rains, everybody's under it, and the shelters come generally, not all of them, but generally there's like a kitchen attached if you need to like bring food out or have a fridge to put drinks. They can generally fit a large amount of people. There's a grassy area generally nearby, so we could practice our outdoor ceremony there. And we could just get catering to come to the park. And I was like, this is genius. So that's what we ended up doing. We looked at parks all around the area. There were some near our house. Some of these too also have like 50-person caps. And honestly, we could try to risk it and get a place that's smaller than the amount of people because probably not all of them would come, but we didn't want to risk it. Even if it is a park, we're just like, that's not really cool of us. I don't really want to do that if we're going to be, paying the city to rent a shelter. But the ones near us weren't very big. The ones actually in the city where we're getting married were like $500, $600. And some of the fancy places were also roughly that much. So we actually found a park that was like $170. And that's with a security deposit, and like that's $50 that we'll get back. So it's really only $120. And it has the big shelter, it has a kitchen attached, the bathrooms. It seats 100 people. We have the picnic tables, like all of that, which is really all we needed. And we're going to get catering, so it's also near quite a few restaurants. And we were originally thinking Chipotle, but we were a little worried about people's stomachs like that night and the next day. So we decided to choose between, we haven't picked yet because we have time, but there's either an Olive Garden nearby, which is, kind of an easy favorite. Like no one really says, I hate Olive Garden, at least of the people I know. And the other is Pizza Luce, which is a fancier pizza place. We did the math too, because a lot of these restaurants were quoting us in the thousands. But even if we got a bunch of Olive Garden platters, or if we got enough pizza for every guest to have half a pizza, that's still like, it'll be under 1,000, like easy. So even if we got like the really expensive, well, maybe not if we got the really expensive stuff, but just getting the stuff that we know people would like the more basic things, or even sometimes even some specialty ones, I think it would work out very well for us. It's also a little weird because I say we don't need to worry about that yet, which is off for me because I like to get things planned, but I went on the catering sites and they don't really let you book catering even for a big event until like a month or 2 weeks before. So we sort of have to wait. So I just set myself a reminder to do that, and then Jake and I will hash out what we want to do for food and see how many people are coming so we don't order way too much or not enough, and then we'll have leftovers for days after the wedding and not have to cook. That'll be kind of nice. Just bring that home and then go on over. And I'm so excited about it, and I just can't believe I didn't think of this. It's such a good option for us, just because it is something it's a little cheaper. We didn't, like I said, we didn't want anything fancy. We're very much, our priorities are, people getting fed, which like pizza and pasta is a pretty crowd-pleasing combo. I don't think anyone will complain about it, especially if we, sort of add something on our RSVP site saying like, because you're using With Joy, so we plan to have an RSVP for the wedding, and then like just the people invited to rehearsal dinner will like ask them if they're coming or not, and then give them a few options once we pick what food we're getting, since I don't want them to choose between Olive Garden and Pizza Lucha, and then we have to like do both because I don't want to do that. But once we have our options picked, we'll just ask people and we'll know what they can get, and then everybody will be happy, I would assume. That's pretty much our priority, is like have our nearest and dearest, everybody gets food, and we can just hang out. Like we probably won't decorate the park pavilion or anything, and we'll just have it from 4 to 10, and we probably won't need it for the whole time. I can't imagine us hanging out that long, especially because we'll probably be busy. Like I might have to go get like a manicure or like do other things that day. I'm sure it's gonna be a very busy day. But I am very excited about it. If you're trying to find more inexpensive venues, I sort of made this all about me. I apologize, that wasn't my intent when I started this video, but I'm the one I know, so I just talk about what I have. If you do these sort of rentals, they generally make you pick up the key. At least for us, maybe this is different elsewhere, I have no idea. But a lot of the places I looked at had the same sort of setup, where you pick up the key 48 hours before, and you have to try and return it by the next business day. So like if you were getting married on a Saturday or a Sunday or Friday, try to return it by the next Monday, and which we probably might just return it that night and then go to the hotel. If you do want a cheap rehearsal dinner, you could probably find a place that does lunches or brunches. Since we're having a Saturday wedding, we pretty much are limited to Friday nights because a lot of people can't get off of work the Friday before. Our original plan was to have just lunch at our house, and then we realized, like, wait, we had the day off. That doesn't mean everybody else has the day off. We can't do it like that. That wouldn't be fair to anybody. Hi, different day, different lighting. I was just editing, and I realized I trailed off at the end, and I didn't finish what I was going to say. But I wanted to add, there's one other option if you wanted to get a potentially inexpensive rehearsal dinner for a large group, and that's to not have one. Some people do not have a rehearsal dinner, and I honestly think that's a very valid thing to do. And if you wanted to sort of get the feel of a rehearsal dinner without doing one good thing to remember is that you should probably be feeding your wedding party and anybody who's getting ready with you on the day of the wedding. You should give them lunch or something so they have something to eat. A friend of mine just went to Costco or Sam's Club, and she got a bunch of croissants, and she got meat and cheese, and she just made sandwiches the night before, and she brought them out on platters for us, said, here you go, eat something, please. Which was very nice of her. And I've been to other weddings where they did sort of a similar thing, and they had like fruit platters, they had donuts, things like that, so you could, another inexpensive way to feed people the day of. And so if you do that the day of, you probably don't need to do the rehearsal dinner the night before, and you don't have to like spend money on another spot, because you'll probably already have either a getting ready space, or you'll be in like a hotel room with people getting ready, or something of that nature at the ceremony site. And if you don't do a rehearsal dinner and you're there the day of, you could do a quick run through at your ceremony site with everybody there, and so then it will also be fresh in people's minds. So we're doing a rehearsal dinner, but we also do plan to, even though we're rehearsing there, we do plan to rehearse again in the space the day of if we have extra time. If there's time between photos, we hope to kind of do a practice walk down the aisle and see how it goes. So that's another great option. And then you don't have to really worry about as much. You probably wouldn't have maybe as many people there at that point in the day, but if you're already going to be feeding people, you're already probably going to be presenting them with a gift for them. Perhaps if you have, some people do like the wedding robes, or some people do jewelry. And even if you don't do those sort of things, you just give them a personalized gift or a thank you card, and then you can just get that all done in one go, and you don't even need to get a venue. So I guess to sum it up, these are some of the more, well, maybe not inexpensive options to have a large rehearsal dinner, but there are some options for you, and you might have thought of all of these already. But like I said, it was a bit of a process for me, so some of it was more eye-opening than others. So if you go the more expensive route, you have the option of restaurants. You could do it at the hotel, or you could do it at a brewery or a winery. If you have a cheaper option, if you have a larger home or a backyard, or if you have maybe a friend or a family member will offer up a space. I'm not sure if etiquette wise you should ask to take their space, but if someone offers to host a rehearsal dinner for you, much like a wedding shower or anything like that, then you can definitely take them up on it. Yeah, the option we chose, which is to have it at a picnic shelter. Or, the few other options I mentioned, like a bowling alley. I'm still a little jealous of people who have things at bowling alleys. What is wrong with me? Is that weird? I just think it would be really fun, and people have something to do, and I'm gonna stop. Jake said no, we already have something else. I need to stop focusing on bowling alleys. If you guys have ideas for venues, I would love to hear about them, because since I already picked mine, I haven't really gone completely down the rabbit hole looking for all of the venues we could have possibly chosen, since we already have one chosen. But I'd love to hear your rehearsal dinner spaces. So yeah, that's all I got from here. I apologize if I talk too much about my own experiences, but that's what I know, so I just kind of lean on that, and I really hope this was helpful and gave you a little maybe background insight instead of just giving you the list of places, giving you more of the like, this is kind of what it's like, these are some of the drawbacks, these are some of the, I guess I mostly talked about drawbacks, but there are pros to all of them, especially because a few of them would already have catering right on site, which is very nice, but having catering brought to you is also not a bad option. I feel like I could talk forever, but I'm going to try and cut myself off here. So I hope you're having a wonderful day or night or whatever it is, and I'll see you another time. Bye!